So hi there. So I'm going to go over some SketchUp tips in this video. Um, for basic sort of how to do stuff, the tutorials that SketchUp provides on their website are excellent. So I'm not going to reinvent that wheel. Go there for how to learn how to use the tools and all that stuff. But I'm going to go through some things that I've learned from many years of using SketchUp that might not be immediately obvious. First thing is, just because I was playing with this before I started making this video, is the styles, which are kind of fun. You can give the look of your model lots of different styles, and you can change this. So this is one style, this particular one, right? But you can change between these default styles, and there are also some really cool styles that use sketchy edges and look less, it's kind of a nice one, computer-aided design and more natural. There are lots of these, so you can play around. And just a few examples of sort of ones that are, these were created in a contest. So lots of different styles available to you. But we'll go back to the default styles and use this one. Okay. I usually use this one or this one, but I'm going to use this one today. All right, so what I've got is just a little presentation area here, which I'm going to go through 10 tips, and let's get started. So I can click on this scene button here, and that will take me to shift me to a view, so I don't need to navigate there with the navigation tools. So the 3D warehouse. So this is, file this under don't reinvent the wheel, right? So there are literally, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of components in this available in the 3D warehouse, and you just go to the components dialog box and you type in what you're looking for. And I'm going to take this wheel right here, and you just click on it, and it comes into your model, and there it is. We'll look at that in a little bit more detail in a second. And just I'll do wheelbarrow now. And I'll just take that one and put that in there. So there, again, there's just a tremendous amount of stuff that is available in the 3D warehouse, and you can go and grab it and pull it right into your model, right? And save yourself the time of reinventing that particular geometry. Right? You can actually, you can also get to the 3D warehouse over the web. You don't need to use SketchUp's interface to get there. All right. So importing images. You can also bring images into SketchUp. Right, so I've got an image here somewhere. There it is. I think you can do it. I never do it this way, so I have to just check it. You can do it via import. And usually just go over here and grab it off the desktop. And I'm going to bring in an image. And this is actually a graphic that I created. This is a model that I created in SketchUp. This is kind of an unusual use of SketchUp. But and then the model had a little bit of post-processing in Photoshop. This, I should say, the export of an image from the model. This is using a plugin called Subdivide and Smooth that allows you to smooth SketchUp geometry. So just one note, when you bring in images onto a surface, they glue to that surface. Meaning if you want to move them off of that surface or off the plane of that surface, you want to right-click on them and do unglue, right? And when that happens, you often get this. And what's going on here is you've got two entities, two pieces of geometry sharing exactly the same plane. Right? And SketchUp doesn't know what to do, right? It's sort of, in this case, it made the decision to decide to show this face instead of this face. But it, in order to avoid this, just move it off of so that they don't share the same plane, right? And the other thing about images that you bring in is they're already grouped. I'll talk about groups more in a minute. And so if what you may want to do, if you want to manipulate it at all, is you may want to explode them. Or you could double click. You know, I think you just want to explode it. I was going to say maybe you could edit the group, but and then you can do things like pull it out like that if you wanted to, right? Add some depth to it. But I just you can do that with any image that you have, and you know, it's a nice feature of SketchUp. And actually, we go back here, right? SketchUp's kind of recursive in that any SketchUp model can be imported into any other SketchUp model. So this model that we're working on could be imported into another SketchUp model, just the way I imported these SketchUp models into this model. All right, let's go on to movement at a distance. All right, this is really, it takes us a while to sort of wrap your head around this, but it's a really important aspect of SketchUp. So let's see, I want to move a little bit like that. That's useful. Okay, so I'm going to make a little cube here. And let's say I wanted to move this cube face to be exactly equal with this surface right here. Right, so I start using the push-pull tool, I start moving it. But I don't need to keep the push-pull tool on that face once I've started moving it. I can come over to that surface, and then I know that that face is exactly parallel with that surface, right? I can come over to that surface, right, and it's parallel with that surface. So there are a lot of things in SketchUp. Say I want to move this up to be equal to the bottom of that. So come up and right there, I'm at the bottom of that, right? This can actually be incredibly useful. So just be aware that once you're moving something, you can reference other surfaces by just moving to them once with the tool. All right. Learn and make keyboard shortcuts. So this is really important for using SketchUp efficiently. So notice here I'm not going over to the menus at all. They're over here, right? The SketchUp menus are over here. But I'm not using them because I have keyboard shortcuts for all of the menus. And if you hover over the menu, it tells you what the keyboard shortcut is. And these are all changeable in the preferences. So that's A for the rectangle tool. So I just, I did that here. Now I can type A, and then I have E for the push-pull tool, and T for the rotate tool, right? All of this without taking my eye off the geometry that I'm working with. Oh, here's another tip, right? If I want that to stay in that that tool in that orientation, I hold the Shift key down, so I can come up there and go and just rotate that around. Okay, turn it into a pie slice. Leave it there. So learn and make keyboard shortcuts. If you don't like the ones that SketchUp provides, you can make your own. But it's definitely, if you're going to spend time with SketchUp, learn how to do that, or set those up and learn them. Oh. And I want to go over here, group geometry early. So what can happen is that geometry in SketchUp tends to stick to other geometry. So say now that I want to move this smaller shape off of this one. I can select all of this shape and then use the move tool and move it. Now, but oops, see, because it's stuck to the other geometry, you get weird effects like this, right? And we don't want that. So here's what we're going to do. Going back here, we're going to, I just triple click that. You can select it other ways. I'll go over different ways to select in just a minute. Right click or use the menu. And I'm going to do make group. And now when I do what I just did there, and I select that, now when I move it, it didn't stick, right? And so that can be really useful because you can get into like really sticky situations if your geometry starts sticking. Sorry. If you want to edit the group, oh, by the way, you can just do Command G too, and I just grouped that. You can double click on it, and you see you get this outline around it, meaning you're inside that group, and you can edit that group if you want. Right? Okay. But now, once you're out of it, it's treated as a whole entity, and you can move it around and resize it and stuff like that. Okay? So group geometry early. As soon as you sort of have a piece of geometry that makes sense to group it. And what, you'll learn in time through practice what that means, but always be thinking about grouping your geometry. All right, make components for duplicates. So components are like groups on steroids. So we'll just make a little circle here. We'll export it, and I'm going to make component, and we'll call this Bollard. Well, that's because I did this when I was practicing. Replace it. Okay. Now, I can duplicate this, right? I'll make a couple of duplicates. But so if you know you're going to be duplicating something, you may want to change it, right? So I may want to change this Bollard. So if I haven't made a component out of it, I'd have to go back and change all three of these. But if it's a component, I can come into just any of the components. I'll come into this one, and we'll just modify it, right? And see how the others modified? Pretty cool, right? And we'll pop that up. And just to prove that we could edit any of these, I'll come to this one, and we'll just spread that out. So components are really powerful, and you want to make them. Any geometry that you think you might have multiple pieces of, make it a component. Okay. And like groups, geometry, once you've made something a component, other geometry won't stick to it, which is helpful. All right, let's pay attention to the measurement field. That's this field down here, right? So it's really a lot happens down here, and different things happen depending upon your context. So let's illustrate this. If we're drawing a rectangle here, we get the width and the height, and you can come down here and change that. So I'm going to make that 2 feet, oops, 2 feet, comma, 4 feet, right? So 2 feet wide, 4 feet high. And I can keep changing it as long as I don't do anything else. Right? 6 feet. I'm going to make it a little wider. I'm going to go, let's do 12 feet wide. Okay. Cool. There's other information down here that you definitely want to pay attention to as well. So I'm going to just modify this guy a bit. So what else can you do? Well, let's group it. I don't have to do the group thing to show you this, but just let me do that. So, say I want a bunch of these evenly spaced. Well, what I can do is take my first one, make a copy, using the move tool, move it to where I want the other end of the range of these to be, and then down here, just type say the number I want, 5, and then the slash key, like that. And right there, right? So hit return, And, oops, something went wrong there. Let's try that again. X and 5/ there. I don't know, I must have done something in between when I dragged it over accidentally. So remember, you can't do anything else in between. So say I want 3, you can keep playing, right? 7. So that's really useful, right? No sort of laboriously dragging things out to place them. I'm going to undo to there. So you can also use that to make lots of copies. So let's say I want 100 of these. I just do 100x, and they're marching off into the far distance there, right? So you can make a lot of things really quickly. You can also do this, I'm going to undo. You can also do this in multiple dimensions, not just one way. We can move over and up and make copies. So we'll do that. I think that's easy enough. And we'll do then 6x. Whoops, that's weird. That I'm sure is not going to. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Oops, don't want to move that. So, yeah, right? And I'll show you one other way, which is kind of fun. You can also do this with circles. So if I come with this tool and click here and come over to this and click and hold down Option. Oops. And I can drag off a copy, and now I can do 10x, right? It goes spinning around it based upon where you did those, the center of that, whatever you call this, the protractor shape is. Okay, so that's all pretty cool stuff, all related to the measurement field down here. Okay. Let's do that one more time, just for the fun of it. So click. Notice where it says Option equals, so I get a little plus sign there. So, and we'll do 25x here. And there we go. That's too many. Let's do 18x. 19x. Cool. A little Stonehenge. And if this was a component instead of a group, then I could make a change to one of these, and they would all change, which is kind of fun. Okay, use layers to group related entities. So layers are a way to group geometry in SketchUp, and oftentimes, since SketchUp's often used for houses, your layers would be things like basement, first floor. Each one of those would be a layer. Here, what I did is I created a layer for these boxes behind us and for the labels. So if let's just zoom out a bit here so you can see this. If I make the box layer invisible, right, all those boxes disappear, right, because they're all in that layer, which I can hide or show. Same with the labels. They're all in that layer. And when I imported that tire, it also came in on its own layer, or added a layer called rim, which is related to just that tire. Okay, so oftentimes when you import things from the warehouse, you'll get layers added here based upon those components. All right, so layers. So use scenes to ease movement. Well, that's what I'm doing here, right? I'm moving between scenes, or moving between parts of my model using scenes. And here's the scene dialog box, right? And you can use this to create animations, or you can also just use it to make it easier to move around your model. which is how I'm using it here. Finally, selecting geometry. Right? A lot of times you're selecting pieces of geometry to work on. So say I want to turn these first 3 letters a different color. So I could come in and select them like that. So notice I drew a marquee around them. Now if I go right to left, anything that it is partially falls within that geometry will be selected, right? If I go left to right, notice that O didn't fall totally within the geometry, or the lasso, the rectangle, the marquee, so that didn't get selected. But if I go right to left, right, it partially falls within now, so it gets selected. So play with that till you're comfortable with it, and now we'll just go to the materials dialog box, and let's give those guys a wooden, we'll give them wood as their color or pattern or material. Okay. There are lots of different materials. Let's, for the fun, just do some stone here for another set of let's use that one. So we'll select, and oftentimes you need to rotate to where you can get the selection you want, right? And now those are all selected, so I can then turn those into stone. Okay? So that is a very brief tutorial of some things that I find useful in SketchUp. And I hope it's helpful. But remember, all of this stuff has gone into more detail in those instructional videos on SketchUp's website. Okay? Hope you enjoyed this and that it was useful. Thanks.